Guys excited about Cataclysm so far? It's going to be good. We're pretty excited about it. Mastery, I'll explain. So we have talent trees. They're cool, but they're getting kind of big. And the first thing we started to worry about is, hey, if we had 5 more levels, are we going deeper in the talent trees? And you're going to have to be like scrolling down, and everyone's going to have to learn new builds. And we also have this problem where a lot of talents are trying to do 3 different things. You'll see this a lot, particularly in some of the newer talents. Oh, Warlock DPS is too low. Oh, we'll tack a little bit onto this talent that we know they all take. And so the talent descriptions get really long and convoluted, and they're kind of hard to understand. We also have this problem of passive bonuses competing with fun or utility talents. The fun talents are something we want players to get, but we know that everyone feels like they have to get the basic talents that let you do your job. Your DPS, you can't pass up anything that's like a 5% DPS talent. You have to get those, and there's a lot of talent trees that have maybe just a few points that they can actually spend on what they want to spend. We think that sucks. So we've made ourselves a little bit of work for Cataclysm. We're going to take a lot of the passive talents and just get rid of them. And you will earn the passive benefits you would get just for spending points in that tree. Yeah. I've got a mock-up in a second. It explains. It's pretty easy to understand. You can still decide, hey, I'm a combat rogue or I'm a balanced druid, and you still get the benefits you would want, but you can get a lot more fun talents. And we can unkitchen syncify the talents. That's our big word for talents that are trying to do 5 or 6 different things, and usually the last thing is, oh, and also add some healing or tanking ability. So we're going to prune the passive talents. Here's some example of talents that you will likely see go away. Spell power. I mean, it's a fun talent, right? I mean, you need it. It's good, but cruelty. Hardly ever seen a warrior without cruelty. And fire and brimstone is one of those, like, hey, it needs to do this and this and this and this and this to make sure that Destro Warlock DPS is where it needs to be. So the kind of talents we want, that we want you to be able to get, and the kind that we'll add more of, are things like body and soul. This is a fun talent. If you PvP as holy, well, first of all, good luck. But secondly, it's a pretty useful talent there. It's not the kind of thing you would normally take for PvE, because you'll say to yourself, well, why would I take that? I need something that improves my healing. We want you to be able to take things like this in PvE. They may be more situational, but they're fun. Lightning overloads. It's a pretty cool talent. Things that proc damage or affect different spells in different ways, we think those are cool. That's not the kind of passive talents we want to prune. We just want to get rid of the things that are like, your fire damage is now 5% higher. And then Juggernaut is a great talent. You might notice on Body and Soul and Juggernaut specifically here that we went ahead and took the passive things out of here. So the Mortal Strike bonus in Juggernaut isn't there anymore, because the charge should be interesting enough on its own, even for PvE. So if you spend talent points in a tree, you'll get 3 types of passive bonuses. The first one is the one that just makes you do your job better. So it'll either be damage, healing, or tanking, depending on the tree, except for Death Knights. We have no idea what the hell we're going to do for that. The second passive bonus will be something that feels very much like a stat. You can kind of imagine where these will plug in already. Some trees care a lot about crit. Other trees might care a lot about haste. And then the third bonus is something that's going to be very unique for your spec. So there's going to be 30 of these, 1 for each tree. And I'll give you an example of how this will work out. And then the new stat that we put on gear, the mastery stat, will modify this third one. So when you look at a piece of gear, it might say, oh, increases my poison damage, while a balanced druid might look at the same piece of gear and it'll increase a different stat for them. And then if you use dual spec or respec, the mastery you have will go ahead and switch to modify what you do better. So this is what we want to do with the talent UI for Cataclysm. We want to be able to show it 3 panes, no scrolling. And then you can see the passive bonuses you get for spending points in each tree. You can imagine as you spend an extra point in assassination, those 3 numbers on the bottom there, melee damage, melee crit, and poison damage would all go up. And then you can see that in the combat tree, melee damage still goes up because you're a rogue, you need to do more melee damage, but then something else might change. In this case, armor penetration. And then subtlety would be different. So there might be diminishing returns so that you don't want to keep piling all of your points into one tree, like you don't want to go 61 into combat or something, but there's also benefits to going sideways into different trees, and you don't have to worry about the specific talent that you get so much as just spending points in that tree. We also put armor penetration as green for the combat tree. This is because this character has mastery stat on their gear, and it's improving their armor penetration even more. So like we normally show stats that are affected by gear show up as green. In this case, the character has most of their points spent in combat, so that's the mastery stat's going to go. Got all that? Here's some example of passive bonuses. We haven't worked all these out, and this is the kind of thing that's going to take a ton of iteration. But for example, assassination mastery might passively improve all of your poison damage. Subtlety might lower energy costs for your attacks. Beastmaster might improve pet damage, and Marksman might improve focus regen, because of course, hunters no longer care about mana.